In 2001, newlyweds Sarah and Michael Chen vanished without a trace from their honeymoon rental on Minnesota's pristine Lake Minnetonka. Their car was still in the driveway, their suitcases still packed, but the couple had simply disappeared. For 23 years, the case remained one of the state's most baffling cold cases, until 2024, when an architect renovating the property broke through a basement wall and discovered something that would expose one of the most elaborate kidnapping schemes in American history. Before we begin this extraordinary investigation, Detective Grimshaw reminds us to subscribe for weekly cold case investigations and unsolved mysteries. In this special case, Detective Grimshaw collaborated with architect Emma Rodriguez, whose shocking discovery would finally bring justice to a decades-old crime. September 15, 2001. Location: Lake Minnetonka, Minnesota. The Chens had planned the perfect honeymoon getaway. After a whirlwind courtship and wedding in San Francisco, Sarah Chen, 28, a software engineer at a tech startup, and Michael Chen, 31, a cybersecurity specialist, had rented the lakefront cottage for 2 weeks of peace and privacy. The house at 247 Birchwood Point was a quaint 1980s A-frame nestled among towering pines, with a private dock and panoramic views of the lake. The rental agent Patricia Walsh from Lakeshore Properties had assured them it was the perfect retreat for a tech-savvy couple who needed to disconnect from the digital world. But Sarah and Michael never checked out. When their rental period ended on September 20th, and no word had been received, Walsh drove to the property herself. What she found would haunt her for the next 2 decades. The front door was unlocked. Inside, everything appeared normal at first glance. The beds were made, dishes were clean and put away, and Michael's laptop sat closed on the kitchen table. But there were subtle signs that something was wrong. Sarah's purse was on the counter, her phone still plugged into the charger. Michael's wallet lay open on the dresser, credit cards and cash untouched. Most disturbing of all, the basement door was standing wide open, and a strange mechanical humming sound echoed from below. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Department treated it as a standard missing persons case initially. Deputies found no signs of struggle, no blood, no indication of forced entry. The Chen's Honda Accord was parked exactly where they'd left it. Their luggage remained unpacked in the bedroom. Detective James Morrison, who led the original investigation, later told reporters that everything about the scene felt staged. The house was too clean, too perfect, as if someone had carefully arranged it to look undisturbed. But without any evidence of foul play, the case eventually went cold. What investigators didn't know was that someone had been watching the Chens from the moment they arrived. September 12, 2001, 3 days before the disappearance, Sarah Chen stood on the dock with her morning coffee, watching the mist rise from the lake's surface. It was their 3rd day at the cottage, and she was finally starting to relax. The September air was crisp, tinged with the first hints of autumn, and the maple trees around the property were just beginning to turn gold. "This place is perfect," she called to Michael, who was inside setting up his photography equipment. He'd brought his expensive digital camera, still a novelty in 2001, hoping to capture some scenic shots for their wedding album. "Almost too perfect," Michael replied, stepping onto the deck. He'd been a cybersecurity specialist long enough to be naturally suspicious, and something about their isolated location made him uneasy. "No cell reception, no internet, no neighbors for half a mile. It's like we've disappeared off the grid." He had no idea how prophetic those words would be. Unknown to the couple, Robert Haynes had been monitoring their every move through a sophisticated surveillance system he'd installed throughout the property. Haynes, 45, was the cottage's actual owner, though he'd been renting it through Lakeshore Properties for the past 3 years. A former tech executive turned real estate developer, Haynes had purchased the isolated lake house in 1999 as what he told friends was an investment property. But Haynes had a secret. His tech company, North Star Systems, had gone bankrupt in 1998, amid allegations of corporate espionage and stolen trade secrets. Though criminal charges were never filed, Haynes blamed his downfall on former employees who he believed had leaked proprietary information to competitors. When he learned that the Chens both worked in tech, Sarah at an AI startup developing facial recognition software, and Michael at a cybersecurity firm with government contracts, Haynes saw an opportunity for revenge against the industry that had destroyed his life. The basement of the cottage housed more than just storage and utilities. Behind a false wall that Haynes had constructed himself, a sophisticated monitoring station tracked every guest who stayed at the property. Hidden cameras in every room, audio recording devices, even keystroke loggers connected to a landline that could intercept any phone calls made from the house. For 3 years, Haynes had been collecting intelligence on his tech industry guests, building detailed profiles of their work, their secrets, their vulnerabilities. But the Chens were special. Their combined knowledge of AI and cybersecurity represented millions of dollars in potential classified information. On the evening of September 15th, Haynes put his plan into motion. Sarah was reading on the couch when the power went out. "Probably just a transformer," Michael said, fumbling for the flashlight they'd seen in the kitchen drawer. But when he flicked the switch, nothing happened. The batteries were dead. "That's weird," Sarah said. "I could have sworn we tested that earlier." From the basement came the sound of the backup generator kicking in, followed by that mechanical humming they'd been hearing intermittently for days. The lights flickered back on, but something was different. The air in the house felt thicker, harder to breathe. "Maybe we should check the basement," Michael suggested. "Make sure everything's okay with the generator." It was exactly what Haynes had been hoping they would do. The basement stairs creaked under their feet as they descended into the dimly lit lower level. The humming was louder here, coming from somewhere behind the furnace. Michael led the way with the flashlight app on his digital camera, while Sarah followed closely behind. "Look at this," Michael said, pointing to a section of the basement wall that looked newer than the rest. "This paneling doesn't match. It's like someone built a false wall." As he ran his hand along the edge, looking for a seam, the panel suddenly swung inward. Behind it was a narrow corridor lined with electronic equipment, monitors, recording devices, servers quietly humming in the darkness. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. "We're being watched." That's when they heard the click of a deadbolt sliding into place upstairs. Robert Haynes emerged from the shadows at the far end of the corridor. He was tall and thin, with prematurely gray hair, and the pale complexion of someone who spent most of his time indoors. In his hand was not a weapon, but a tablet computer, displaying real-time feeds from every camera in the house. "You weren't supposed to find this quite so soon," he said calmly. "But I suppose it doesn't matter. You're not leaving either way." Michael stepped protectively in front of Sarah. "What do you want?" Haynes smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach his eyes. "What I want is what your industry took from me. My company, my reputation, my future. But what I'm going to settle for is everything you know about artificial intelligence, cybersecurity protocols, and government contracts." The hidden corridor led to a larger room that Haynes had converted into a sophisticated interrogation facility. Soundproofed walls, recording equipment, and 2 chairs bolted to the floor. He'd been planning this for months, studying the Chen's work through hacked emails and intercepted phone calls. "I know Sarah's working on facial recognition algorithms for the Department of Defense," Haynes said as he forced them into the chairs. "And Michael, your cybersecurity firm just landed a contract with the NSA. That information is worth millions to the right buyers." What followed was 3 days of psychological torture as Haynes attempted to extract technical secrets from the couple. But the Chens were stronger than he'd anticipated. Despite being held captive in the underground facility, they refused to reveal classified information. Sarah, drawing on her computer science background, had noticed flaws in Haynes's security system. The recording devices were running on a closed loop, and the servers hadn't been properly encrypted. If they could somehow send a signal to the outside world. On September 18th, while Haynes slept upstairs, Sarah managed to access his computer system using a backdoor she'd identified in his surveillance software. Working quickly and quietly, she sent an encrypted message to her colleague at the AI startup, embedded in what appeared to be routine server diagnostics. But Haynes discovered the breach before help could arrive. Detective Grimshaw's involvement in the Chen case began 23 years later, when architect Emma Rodriguez purchased the Lake Minnetonka property and made a discovery that would change everything. March 10, 2024. Location: Lake Minnetonka, Minnesota. Emma Rodriguez had been searching for the perfect property to renovate for over a year. As a successful architect specializing in sustainable lakefront homes, she'd built a reputation for transforming outdated properties into modern masterpieces while preserving their natural charm. The cottage at 247 Birchwood Point had been abandoned for nearly 2 decades, passed through multiple owners who'd done nothing with it. The price was remarkably low for lakefront property, and Emma couldn't understand why it had remained unsold for so long. "Probably just bad feng shui," her real estate agent had joked. "Some houses have dark energy." Emma didn't believe in feng shui, but she had to admit there was something unsettling about the property. Despite its beautiful location, the house felt cold and uninviting. The previous owners had left it furnished but covered in dust sheets, like a tomb preserved in time. She'd been planning to gut the entire structure, keeping only the basic frame and foundation. Modern insulation, new wiring, smart home technology, and a complete redesign that would open up the interior to showcase the lake views. But when her contractors started working on the basement, They found something that stopped the renovation cold. "Miss Rodriguez, you need to see this," called Jake Martinez, her foreman, from the basement. His voice had a strange quality to it, like he'd seen something he couldn't quite believe. Emma descended the stairs to find Jake and his crew standing around a section of basement wall they'd been preparing to remove. The paneling had come away easily, revealing the hidden corridor behind it. "This isn't on the architectural plans," Jake said, holding up the original blueprints from the 1980s. "According to these drawings, this should be solid foundation wall." Emma stepped into the corridor, her contractor's eye immediately noting the sophisticated construction. This wasn't amateur work. The hidden passage had been built by someone with serious technical knowledge and unlimited resources. The equipment was still there, old by 2024 standards, but clearly high-end for its time. Servers, monitoring devices, recording equipment, all connected to a complex wiring system that ran throughout the house. But it was the room at the end of the corridor that made Emma's blood run cold. 2 chairs, still bolted to the floor, restraint straps attached to the arms, a table covered in what appeared to be interrogation equipment, and on the walls photographs, dozens of them. Different couples, different time periods, all apparently guests who'd stayed at the cottage over the years. But there was one couple whose photos dominated the display. A young Asian American woman and man, clearly in love, clearly unaware they were being photographed. In some images they were relaxing on the dock, in others preparing meals in the kitchen. The final photos showed them in this very room, fear and defiance mixing in their expressions. On the back of one photograph, someone had written in careful handwriting, "S. Chen, AI Specialist, M. Chen, Cybersecurity, Extraction Failed, Subjects Terminated 09.1.1. Emma called the police immediately. Detective Grimshaw received the call at his office 3 hours later. Though he typically handled cases in his usual jurisdiction, the complexity of the discovery and its potential connection to other cold cases had prompted local authorities to request his assistance. "What we have here is unprecedented," Sheriff Maria Santos told him as they stood in the hidden basement facility. "This isn't just a crime scene, it's an intelligence operation that's been running for decades." Grimshaw examined the photographs carefully, his experienced eye noting details that others might miss. The quality of the surveillance equipment, the professional setup of the interrogation room, the systematic documentation of victims. This was the work of someone with training in covert operations. "Robert Haynes," Sheriff Santos said, consulting her case file. "He owned this property from 1999 to 2006, then transferred ownership to a shell company. We've been trying to locate him, but he seems to have disappeared after the property sale." "What about the original missing persons case?" Grimshaw asked. "Detective Morrison handled it. He's retired now, but I've got him coming in tomorrow to review the evidence. The Chens were never found, presumed dead, but no bodies were ever recovered." Emma Rodriguez provided crucial information about the property's construction. Her architectural analysis revealed that the hidden facility had been built in phases over several years, with each upgrade becoming more sophisticated. "Whoever did this was learning as he went," she explained to Grimshaw. "The early construction is relatively simple, basic surveillance equipment, amateur soundproofing, but by the time he built the interrogation room, he was using professional-grade materials and techniques. The investigation expanded rapidly as forensics teams processed the hidden facility. DNA evidence from the restraint straps confirmed that Sarah and Michael Chen had been held in the basement room. Blood traces suggested they'd been injured during their captivity, though the amount wasn't sufficient to indicate fatal wounds. Computer analysis of Haynes's surveillance system revealed the scope of his operation. Over 7 years, more than 30 couples had stayed at the cottage, most of them professionals in the tech industry. All had been unknowingly monitored, their conversations recorded, their devices compromised, but the Chens were the only ones who'd been physically abducted. Detective Grimshaw's investigation into Robert Haynes revealed a man whose life had been consumed by paranoia and revenge. After his tech company failed, Haynes had become convinced that the entire industry was engaged in a conspiracy against him. The cottage surveillance operation was his attempt to gather evidence of industrial espionage while simultaneously striking back at the people he blamed for his downfall. Financial records showed that Haynes had been selling stolen technical information to foreign competitors for years, using the intelligence he gathered from his unwitting guests. The Chens, with their high-level security clearances and cutting-edge expertise, represented his biggest potential score, but something had gone wrong with their interrogation. In a hidden safe behind the monitoring equipment, investigators found Haynes's detailed logs of the Chen abduction. His handwritten notes revealed a man gradually losing control of his own operation. Day 1. Subject secured. Chen male shows military training, unexpected resistance. Chen female attempting technical countermeasures. Day 2. Subjects refusing cooperation despite enhanced interrogation. Female subject has compromised security protocols, must accelerate timeline.
Day 3. Security breach detected. Subjects have made contact with outside parties. Situation untenable. Implementing final protocols. The final entry was dated September 21, 2001. Subjects eliminated. Bodies disposed via standard protocol. Facility will be abandoned after cleanup. Operation North Star concluded. But if Haynes had killed the Chens as his logs indicated, where were their bodies? The answer came from an unexpected source. Emma Rodriguez, continuing her renovation work under police supervision, discovered a second hidden area, this one beneath the cottage's foundation. Using ground-penetrating radar, investigators found evidence of disturbed earth under the basement floor. But when they excavated the area, they didn't find bodies. Instead, they found a tunnel. The underground passage extended nearly 200 yards from the cottage basement to a concealed exit point near the lake shore. It was large enough for a person to crawl through, with modern LED lighting and ventilation systems that indicated recent use. This changes everything, Detective Grimshaw told the investigation team. If the Chens used this tunnel to escape, they might still be alive. The tunnel exit was masterfully concealed beneath the artificial rock formation on the lake bank. From the surface, it was completely invisible, but the interior showed clear signs of recent passage. Footprints in the dried mud, scuff marks on the walls, even fresh scratches on the camouflaged exit hatch. DNA testing confirmed that Sarah Chen had used the tunnel within the past 5 years. Detective Grimshaw realized they weren't just investigating a 23-year-old cold case. They were looking for survivors who had been hiding in plain sight for over 2 decades. The breakthrough came when Emma Rodriguez found a hidden compartment in the cottage's kitchen renovation. Behind a false panel in the cabinet base, she discovered a waterproof container holding a USB drive and a handwritten letter. The letter was dated March 1, 2024, just weeks before Emma purchased the property. To whoever finds this, the letter began, "My name is Sarah Chen. I survived Robert Haynes' captivity in 2001, but my husband Michael did not. For 23 years, I have been watching this house, waiting for someone to discover the truth." The USB drive contained detailed documentation of Haynes' entire operation, including evidence of his sales of stolen technical information to foreign governments. Sarah had been gathering evidence for more than 2 decades, building an airtight case against her captor. But the letter also contained a warning. Haynes is still alive. He has been monitoring the property remotely, waiting for the right moment to return. He knows someone has found his facility. Be careful. Detective Grimshaw coordinated with federal authorities to establish surveillance of the cottage while continuing the search for Sarah Chen. Her letter provided a phone number and instructions for making contact, but only if the investigation met certain security protocols. She's been living like a spy for 23 years, Grimshaw explained to Emma Rodriguez, constantly watching over her shoulder, never staying in one place too long, always expecting Haynes to find her. The reunion, when it finally happened, was emotional and carefully orchestrated. Sarah Chen, now 51, met with Detective Grimshaw and federal agents at a secure location in Minneapolis. She looked older than her years, with graying hair and the cautious manner of someone who'd spent decades in hiding. Her story filled in the missing pieces of the 2001 disappearance. Sarah and Michael had been held in Haynes' basement facility for 3 days, during which he attempted to extract classified information about their respective projects. When they refused to cooperate, Haynes became increasingly unstable and violent. On their 3rd night in captivity, Sarah discovered the tunnel entrance hidden behind the water heater. It had been part of Haynes' original construction plan, an escape route in case his operation was ever discovered. But he'd never expected his prisoners to find it. Michael insisted that Sarah escape first while he remained behind to ensure Haynes didn't pursue her immediately. He planned to follow once she'd reached safety and contacted authorities. "I waited at the tunnel exit for hours," Sarah told Detective Grimshaw, tears streaming down her face. "But Michael never came. When I finally saw police cars at the cottage the next morning, I knew something had gone wrong." From her hiding place in the woods, Sarah watched as investigators processed the scene. But there was no sign of Michael, and no indication that anyone had discovered the hidden facility. She realized that Haynes had somehow concealed the evidence before authorities arrived. Afraid that coming forward would put her in danger, and that no one would believe her story without proof, Sarah made the difficult decision to remain hidden while she gathered evidence against Haynes. For the next 23 years, she lived under assumed identities, working in tech support jobs that kept her skills sharp while avoiding high-profile positions that might attract Haynes' attention. She monitored news about the cottage property, waiting for someone to discover the hidden facility that would vindicate her story. "I never stopped looking for Michael," she said, "and I never stopped planning to bring Haynes to justice." The federal investigation that followed Sarah's emergence revealed the full scope of Haynes' operation. Using the evidence she'd gathered over 2 decades, authorities were able to trace his activities across multiple states and several foreign countries. Haynes had indeed killed Michael Chen during the escape attempt, burying his body in a remote location that investigators were still working to identify. But he'd been forced to abandon his cottage operation and flee the country when Sarah's escape triggered security concerns. For the past 20 years, Haynes had been living in Eastern Europe, selling stolen American technical secrets to the highest bidders. But Sarah's evidence had given authorities enough information information to request his extradition. In December 2024, Robert Haynes was arrested in Prague and returned to the United States to face charges of kidnapping, murder, espionage, and dozens of other federal crimes. The cottage at 247 Birchwood Point was eventually demolished, and the land turned into a memorial park for victims of tech industry crimes. Emma Rodriguez donated her architectural services to design a peaceful lakefront space where visitors could reflect on the importance of protecting those who work to keep America's digital infrastructure secure. Sarah Chen, finally free to live under her own name, established a foundation to help other long-term missing persons who might be living in hiding due to fear or trauma. Her 23-year ordeal had ended, but her advocacy for others was just beginning. Detective Grimshaw later reflected that the Chen case represented a new kind of crime for a new century, one where technology could be used both to victimize and to ultimately achieve justice. Sarah's patient gathering of evidence over more than 2 decades proved that even the most sophisticated criminal operation could be brought down by determination, intelligence, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. As he often said, in every shadow lies a secret, and in every secret lies the truth. The cottage on Lake Minnetonka had hidden its secrets for 23 years, but justice, like the truth, has a way of eventually rising to the surface. The case also demonstrated the power of collaboration between law enforcement and civilians. Emma Rodriguez's architectural expertise had been crucial in understanding the scope of Haynes's operation, while Sarah Chen's survival and evidence gathering had made prosecution possible. In the end, the story of the missing newlyweds became a testament to human resilience and the importance of never giving up hope, even when the truth seems buried deeper than anyone could imagine. Note, this story is fictional and created for entertainment purposes in collaboration with Detective Grimshaw Mysteries.